Welcome, everyone. So thank you for being here, Mickey, and I'm glad to know what brings you here today. The purpose of this webinar is to talk about what the multifamily recycling rules are in Dakota County, to talk about what best practices look like, and third is what the free resources are for managers and staff and residents throughout Dakota County through our multifamily recycling program. So first of all, what does multifamily mean when we're talking about it at the county level? We're referring to a specific definition in county ordinance, which is any building with 4 or more residential units. About a third of the housing in our county is multifamily housing. This gives the breakdown. Mostly we have townhomes, and that's followed by apartments, but multifamily housing also includes condominiums and assisted living. What are some of the challenges that you have faced? I know you've mentioned that people want to know more and kind of need the information about what they can and can't recycle, and any other kinds of questions that you think you might be facing at Applewood?
No, now that you've clarified about the caps on, caps off, and they've sent out more information on the shredded paper. That was a big one. Okay. And staples.
Yep,
those were
we'll
the
talk
big
more
ones.
about those too. Mm-hmm. So there are some challenges that are specific to multifamily housing that we will get into in a moment. First, just to be put this in context, when we talk about where does it go, there are a couple places that the material goes when we dispose of it. If it's trash, in our county, it's going to landfill primarily. And each of us generates about 4 pounds of trash a day. If you live in Dakota County, your trash is likely to go to one of the 2 landfills, and some haulers will take it to a waste to energy facility, which is like an incinerator and where the trash is burned to make energy. But mostly it's going to landfills. And just real briefly, I'm hearing a little bit of background noise, so if it's possible to mute yourself unless you have a question, it might be a little clearer with the background.
I've muted everyone now.
Okay.
Oh.
But feel free to jump on if you have a question. So then where does the recycling go? We're talking about a recycling facility, and we have several of those as well. The benefit is that we're saving natural resources when we reuse what we have and repurpose it for new materials, new products. Also, it conserves energy. It pollutes less than getting virgin materials like mining, and that kind of thing is necessary for producing new metals and things like that. And it's really good for our economy. Specifically in Minnesota, we have 37,000 Minnesotans who work in this industry, and that's worth $2 billion in wages each year. And it's also generating $8 billion to the Minnesota economy. And that's, when you think, comparing that to if we bury the trash, if we bury recyclable material in the trash, we're actually spending $285 million to bury it. And the material that we're burying is worth another $200 million a year. In Minnesota, we have a goal of 75% recycling by 2030. So this graph illustrates how we're doing. And you can see that we've been improving, but we can do better. So Dakota County, we're happy to say, has the highest recycling rate in the region, in the metropolitan region. And we've made some improvements, but the data in the past 5 years is indicating that our recycling rate is actually slowing and in some cases declining. So we're glad to have a chance to talk with people who are interested about improving recycling because we need everyone's help.
So I do have a question.
Yeah.
My question is, what happens to these old landfills? Are they
Once we're
considered
done filling them
toxic
up,
waste? Yeah, are they, and what constitutes a full waste site?
well, they get permitted for a certain amount of space, and that includes air space above them. They can only go so high and so wide and so deep. They are lined, or at least the newer ones are lined, so that they're the leachate, or the waste material and liquids that come out of it are drained off and monitored in a very specific way that is regulated. And what happens when they're done is they get buried. They get covered over and buried, and then those have to be monitored as well. So it's not a sustainable practice, which is why we need to recycle, but even more important, we need to reduce and reuse what we can.
Thank you.
That's a great question. All right, so moving on to the topic of what the requirements are in Minnesota. This is new for 2019 and coming into 2020. Real quick, I just want to say hi to Beverly. Welcome. Beverly, we were just catching up on a little bit about where recycling goes and where trash goes. And I know you're familiar with that. So what's new is this ordinance information, because the county board updated the solid waste management ordinance last year. So these are the 6 requirements that are new. One is that multifamily buildings in Dakota County have recycling service.
Gina, I'm having a little trouble hearing you. Can you speak a little clearer?
It might be, can you turn your volume? Is it too soft?
It's anyway, do what you can.
Okay. Recycling service is not provided at all buildings, but now it needs to be. It is required by the county ordinance. Number 2 is to recycle a designated list of materials, and I will show you what those are. Number 3 is pairing the recycling and trash containers. We call it co-locating it, and that's for convenience. 4th is labeling the containers, and that's to show people what goes into them. 5th is providing annual recycling education, which means that managers need to provide the information to their residents once a year or when they move in. And they also need to provide that information to their employees. And 6th is to submit an annual report to the county once a year that says that they are meeting these expectations. So here are the materials that need to be recycled, called the designated list. And these are the basic items that we want to have in the recycling stream because they're of the highest value and they have the greatest benefit to conserve resources and protect our air, water, and land. Paper and cardboard, cartons, cans, and glass. They should be empty and dry, and they should be loose in the cart. So if you collect them in a bag, make sure that you toss them out of the bag into the cart or the dumpster. And then if it's a paper bag that you can't reuse, go ahead and put that in separately. And if it's a plastic bag, it shouldn't go in the recycling at all. In fact, it causes problems at the recycling centers if it does go in there. So please keep those out. And then we'll just look at each of these separately, briefly, starting with paper and cardboard. Paper and cardboard include your newspapers, your magazines, and your mail, that kind of thing. Cardboard includes any corrugated cardboard like what you get delivered to you from Amazon, or paperboard like what your cereal and your cracker boxes look like. So most paper, but not all paper. Some of the tricky things include paper plates, which should not go in because of the type of paper and coatings that they can have. Paper cups for the same reason. Napkins and tissues, which are very, very low grade material that nobody really wants in the paper supply. So it's these things should go in the trash. Nikki, you mentioned about paper shredding or shredded paper, and recycling facilities do not want to have this shredded paper because when bags of shreds come in and they're opened on the sorting floor, the shreds become like confetti and they create a hazard for the workers who are there. They end up in other materials and they contaminate those materials. When they go to the facility, all this stuff needs to be separated out. It's separated by machines and it's separated by people, and that shredded paper kind of messes up everything and gets into stuff that it shouldn't be in. What you can do, as shown here, is you can take your shredded paper to your whatever sites are in your community, like retail establishments, stores that will take that. But there's also a free city event in every city at least once a year where you can bring your confidential documents and have them shredded on site and recycled. Last but not least, if you have some shredded paper that you want to get rid of, you can take it to the recycling zone in Egan. So if that's convenient for you, that's another option. We really encourage people only shred what you need to, because ideally the paper would go to, it would go in your cart and be collected and sorted and managed through the MRF at your local facility.
Gina, Mickey has a question.
Go ahead. Mickey, can you unmute yourself?
Oh, what about in cereal boxes, there's that lining that holds the cereal. Can that go?
That can go with your plastic bags if you're going to drop them off at the store where they collect them for recycling. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Next is metal cans. So this includes, your pop can, your beer can, typical kinds of things that food comes in. What it doesn't include, scrap metal. This can be really hazardous at a sorting facility. Scrap metal can be recycled, but not through your cart or your dumpster. It needs to be taken to a separate location where scrap metal can be recycled. Aerosol cans, because they're pressurized, if they get into the recycling centers, they can cause problems there if they explode. So those should be also disposed of in another manner. Either you can take them to your local hazardous waste collection or you can drop them in the trash. So no pressurized containers. Just a little side note on that can in the picture, what you don't see is the lid, and that's because, well, when you recycle it, the lid's off and you've rinsed out your can, but you can put the lid back in there. Those metals are really damaging to the environment. When you talk about everything that has to be mined out of the ground, a lot of pollution happens when we make that metal can from scratch. So every bit counts, I think. Put the lid inside there, and if you need to, kind of pinch that can closed. If you have aluminum foil, it needs to be about 2 inches in diameter for it to be screened properly inside of the resorting facility. So maybe ball up your aluminum and then toss it in your cart or your dumpster. And then we are looking at glass. Glass is pretty straightforward. Yes, the lids can stay on, and the lids will be separated and recycled separately, but you can keep them on. And the kind of glass that is not supposed to go in your cart or dumpster would include anything that isn't like, food containers, like bottles and jars for your beverages and things like that. So ceramics are not the right type of glass. Drinkware is not the right type of glass, nor are mirrors. We get this question a lot because isn't glass all the same? Glass is glass. It's not. It's made of different materials. And the type of glass that our food comes in is the type of glass that people want to buy when we turn it in to be recycled. That particular type and not these other types. Cartons, cartons are interesting because they're a special kind of paper that's actually composite materials, but there is a way to recycle them. It includes not just your, milk cartons, but also juice cartons, soup cartons, and the caps can stay on those too. Plastics, look for the number on the bottom. Numbers 1, 2, and 5 have markets for them. They have buyers. The other numbers do not have buyers, and they're considered trash. If the other numbers get in there, it can contaminate the plastic that the buyers want, and they may not want it if it's contaminated with other types of plastic. So look for the number 1, 2, or 5. I think of it, to remember it, as $1.25. This includes, again, your food kinds of containers, soda, juice, water, milk, but also margarine, cottage cheese, cream cheese, and other tubs, your laundry bottles, detergent bottles, and your clear clamshells. To make sure what you can put in your curbside cart, look on the Dakota County website if you're not quite sure, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. Now, Mickey, you did ask about plastic bags, and I'm really glad you did. Just to revisit that for a second, there are some no's when it comes to plastic. Plastic bags is one of them, but they can be recycled. Please take your plastic bags to a store that recycles them. They will be made into new products like lawn furniture and other kinds of great things that people want to buy. Styrofoam is a no. Microwavable trays are a no, and there's other things like flexible tubes. The tubes that you get for sunscreen and things like that is not a recyclable plastic, nor are plastic utensils. I rewash my plastic utensils and I take them to the next picnic. I keep a couple in my purse, actually, clean ones, so that when I'm out and about, if I don't want to pick one up at the deli that I'm at or something, I can use the one I have. Let's see. If you have a pump in a lotion bottle or some other type of bottle, you should actually take the pump off and throw it away. It seems like a small thing, but since you guys are interested, I'll mention that. And then pouches. I don't have a picture of pouches, but pouches are like drink pouches. Snack foods come in some pouches. That type of plastic is not a recyclable plastic as well. Just no market for that.
Gina, Mickey has a question, and
Okay.
Mickey, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Thanks. Go ahead, Mickey.
So what about the straws that come on those little things? And how clean do these items need to be? Do we just rinse them out, or do they have to go through the dishwasher? And what about plastic gloves?
Okay, so I'll do those in reverse order. Plastic gloves, if they are a stretchy film plastic, like a stretchy Target bag, you can actually put those back with your plastic bags and take them to Target and drop them off. It's probably polyethylene, which is all the same stuff, and they can use it. The straws, and you had one other one. What did I forget? So the straws, the little plastic straws, you can toss those out. They're too small and it's not the right type of plastic. You can get reusable straws. I keep reusable straws with me in my purse too. Those have become kind of popular. What was the other one?
Rinsing.
Oh yeah. You do not need to wash anything in your dishwasher. It needs to be empty and dry. It doesn't have to be perfectly clean.
And I was thinking about the straws that come with those juice drinks. Those are a no also. And then the plastic gloves I'm thinking of are the ones that everybody's using today, these purple ones, for COVID, that kind of thing.
Those might be latex. So when in doubt, throw it out. I would say, I was thinking of a different kind of a clear plastic, filmy, stretchy at my grocery store. But I know the ones you're talking about, and I don't think those should go in with your plastic bags to be recycled.
Thank you.
And the straws are not recyclable.
And then the other thing are they planning on doing something with masks at some time? I mean, we're using gloves and masks like crazy. Is there any way they could do something to, that's huge.
Yeah, not that I know of right now. I mean, I'm using cloth ones that I can wash, and so reusable is good. But Jenny, do you have anything on that?
No, and really, because there's a health hazard factor in that, I don't foresee that happening anytime soon. We just encourage people to not use disposable, use reusable, be safe. But nope, they go in the trash right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, you're right that it's a lot of additional waste, a lot of material. Okay, so with the plastic bags, we want to keep them out of the sorting equipment. We also want to keep out what are called tanglers, so things like hoses, chains, string lights, electrical cords, batteries. There are ways of handling that properly, and it's not in the cart or the dumpster. Recycling centers, if that stuff gets into their machines, they have to turn off the machines and climb inside the machines and cut out the tanglers. It's dangerous and it reduces their productivity because they have to stop the machines for a period of time. Batteries, we have to be careful with because some types of batteries cause fires, and we don't want those to go to the recycling centers. And then diapers have been showing up a lot lately. So these are just a few things to not put in the recycling that we haven't talked about already. Just before I move on, actually, let me add that because we have a beautiful recycling zone in Eagan, we encourage you to take your hazardous waste, your household things like paints, electronics, solvents, cleaners, and your batteries, if I haven't said that already 5 times, to the recycling zone. And they're also collecting holiday lights this year, so if those string lights, when you get them out, don't work anymore, please don't toss those in the recycling. Okay, I mentioned if you have doubts, you can check online. We have a fantastic search option right on the county website. If you go to dakotacounty.us or our main page and you go to our recycling guide, you can actually type in the name of any type of item and it will tell you how to dispose of it properly. And that includes not only recycling, but also reuse and donation opportunities. If it's trash, it'll tell you it's trash. I use it, other people use it, it's super easy. So please help us spread the word that people can look up the questions that they have. So that brings us to the second topic today, which is what are the best practices or keys for success in the multifamily setting? We have resources that we'll share with you, which is the third part of the webinar. And then if you're interested, we can talk about getting you connected with those resources.
And Mickey does have a question. Mickey, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Sorry for all the questions, but
No, that's
how do
great.
you get, when I was using the website, is it under environment or how do you get to that? I was just trying to get it so I could get this website or the link, but I was having trouble with the website.
I believe you can search recycling guide. Does that work, Jenny?
Yep, there's a bunch of different ways. You don't even have to go to our website if you don't want to mess with our website. You could just Google or use your regular whatever browser you're using and say Dakota County Recycling Guide. And it'll be the first thing that pops up.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll put a plug in for our app. There's a great app that Dakota County has. If you go on your phone and you put in Dakota County for apps, you get the option on that app of a little environment button, and if you click on that button, it brings up the recycling guide.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's super easy to use. So the best practices, which are the practices that help overcome barriers in multifamily recycling, address some of those barriers, which include access to service, capacity, lack of knowledge or information, unclear norms, and turnover or sustaining. These are some of the challenges that are faced in multifamily housing to a greater degree than single family housing. So we're going to break each of those down and talk about those for a second. For example, with access, Is recycling service provided? As I mentioned at the beginning, it is now required, and not just at the county level, but also the state level, that there are expectations in place for recycling to be provided at every building. And that is specifically a certain level of service, which is about 20 gallons per unit per week, which is the equivalent of, and you don't need to memorize this, 0.1 cubic yards per unit per week. And we can help you do the math if you're wondering whether your building has sufficient capacity. So that's just a minimum. If you think about it in terms of a cart, a typical cart is 96 gallons. 20 gallons per unit per week would be like less than a quarter of a cart in a week for a household. So it's really minimal. They need to have at least that much available. Convenience. So a second important key to success is to make sure that containers are paired, that common areas have the recycling that they need, and that the containers are conveniently placed. So the pictures that I'm showing you are pictures from our multifamily recycling program, and I think Beverly, you might show up in one of these pictures since your building has participated in our program in the past. So we want to make sure that the containers are together inside and out. So if you have common areas outside, it might be picnic, barbecue areas. It could be if you have a pool, if you have a playground. Those are just some examples that come to mind. Front entries, back entries, wherever the trash is, there needs to be a recycling container with it, and that's in the ordinance. The reason we have these rules in the ordinance now is because it addresses the barriers that may be in place, and it makes recycling more convenient. So here's an example too, not required, but convenient to have a bin or tote or some way of collecting material in each unit and then bringing it to the central collection area. Some people already have something that they're using to take their recyclables to where it needs to go. And if you do, that's great. And if you don't, we can help you with that. So here's where Beverly appears from a couple years ago when Lexington Riverside Condominiums was one of the first buildings to participate in our program back when we were just a pilot program. And the last thing I'll say about convenience is to think about your floors. If you have multiple floors, is trash collected floor by floor? And if so, can you pair recycling with that? Newer construction will have side-by-side chutes. That makes it really easy and convenient. If you can't have side-by-side chutes, can you collect next to or close to the chutes? And can you put signage to make it clear that people need to separate their materials? If you have bulky waste, we know that sometimes another challenge can be for multifamily buildings and residents, like how do you get that stuff recycled, or how do you get that stuff donated so it doesn't have to go out to the curb or create overflow? So one option is certified recycling will pick up your mattresses. All you have to do is call them and they will come out and get it and they recycle it. They actually break it apart and they use all the materials inside for new purposes. Another is we can schedule donation partnerships where you have a collection bin for small household items, mainly for clothing and textiles, things like that, shoes that are in good condition and can be reused. Those can be picked up for donation purposes, or residents, of course, like anywhere else, can take their items to be donated any place that they like in their community. There are other reuse options for bulky waste too, and if you search on the recycling guide that we were just talking about, we've got a nice long list of options. It's amazing. I just used that to find a place to take it was like a leg brace from that my husband had surgery and he needed this leg brace for a couple days, and it was perfectly good, brand new, and I found a place to donate it, so I'm really happy. And I did that by searching online. Okay. So one of the other best practices is to make sure that we're closing any gaps in knowledge. Sometimes there is a gap because containers aren't labeled, but also there could be a gap because the residents in a multifamily building don't necessarily get information from their hauler. That information in the past might have gone to building management about what to recycle. Maybe didn't get to the residents. In the ordinance, it will now be required for haulers to share that information with everybody. It's also required for the management to share that information with everybody. So everybody should know everything now. It's all about addressing those gaps. So this is a picture that shows, not only are they paired, but they're labeled. And we, in the ordinance, ask that the labels be color coded, and it matches kind of a regional approach in the Twin Cities. That blue is recycling, green is organics if you have it, and then gray or black is for trash. Other materials that can help close the knowledge gap can include our recycling guide, which was just renamed and will be showing up in your mailboxes soon. Let me see if I can remember, Jenny, where does it go? Did I get that right?
The What Goes Where guide.
Oh,
So close.
I'm so embarrassed. The What Goes Where guide, brand new, hot off the presses soon, coming to your home soon. Things like kitchen clings or magnets that can go on your fridge. So in the program, as I'll be mentioning in just a moment, because we're about to wrap up here, we can also make materials available that are culturally specific and have different languages if that is a need. Education in person can be really helpful, and research shows that it makes a difference. So the labels are good if you can have education in addition to that, where people get their questions answered like we're doing today, hopefully. That can make a big difference. Beverly, you might be in this picture too if you look really hard on the bottom left. Norms. So people will do what their neighbors will do, is another finding in research that's been done on changing behavior when it comes to recycling. So if the norm is we recycle in our building, then newcomers to the building are more likely to recycle. And if that message is reinforced in different ways, people are more likely to recycle because that's what we do here. So examples can include these posters like the one in the picture, or a move-in guide that someone gets when they're new. Maybe it's in your lease agreement and we have sample lease agreements or attachments to a lease. And if a property manager can have a conversation with people when they're new and tell them like, this is what we do and these are the expectations, that can help too. In fact, we work with CDA, which is our public housing authority, with every family that moves in, and have thousands and thousands of families that are served. Someone at CDA sits down with them and hands them a recycling kit and has this conversation. So this brings me to the last part of the presentation, which is about the county's multifamily recycling program. And if this can be of assistance to you, we certainly welcome you to take advantage of it. It includes free educational tools and resources, so you can talk to me about that. We can provide the tote bags that are pictured here with pictures of the same materials we were just talking about. So people in your building will know what goes in the bag to carry it from their unit to the central collection area. If the building needs some recycling containers to pair with the trash containers in your common areas, we can provide those for free of charge, and additional materials that are listed here. One of the nice things about our program is that we make it as easy as possible by providing on-site support. So either a county liaison or a city liaison will come out and help put the stickers on and help put the recycling containers where they need to go, and then follow up with that education. And during coronavirus, because we can't be in person all the time, we are doing online education like we're doing today. So this conversation doesn't have to end today. It's really the beginning of a conversation to just open up resources and information to people in our larger community. And we encourage you to help spread the word about what these best practices are, what the requirements are, and what the resources are. And if people in your community can tap Dakota County resources and we can help, we would like to be able to do so. And that's the end of the presentation. So any additional questions?
I do have a question on cardboard boxes. You know, we all moved in at the same time and we all had all this packing tape around our boxes. Is that something that should have been removed, or is that kind of?
The tape?
Okay, yes.
Yeah, you can leave the tape. If there's like a lot of tape on there, you know, somebody has to deal with it eventually. And the way that the manufacturing works, the equipment that is used to break down that cardboard material to make new cardboard, they have a way to deal with that plastic tape. If there's a ton of it, you can rip that off and toss it in the trash.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I had another question about the labeling. We have coffee, and we don't now, of course, but there was always our recycling container always ended up with trash in it because we didn't really have a good label on the cupboard where the recycling went. How do we go about getting that, or do we just download it and tape it to the door?
You said it was for coffee. Did I understand that right?
No, when we have coffee. So we have little styrofoam cups. We have real cups, but nobody wants to wash them. So but we should have the paper ones instead, although that would go in the trash also. But, and then sometimes we'll have the plastic forks and things, but we do sometimes have things that could be recyclable. But no one knows what we have that could be recycled. So we need like a picture poster that would go on the cupboard where the recycling thing. Maybe we just need that container.
Yeah.
Where you showed the side-by-side containers.
I was just gonna say, I mean, this is what you can recycle. The rest of it, trash. So.
And we have a large trash thing there already. So maybe if we could just get one of the recyclable containers like that.
Actually, it's now required under the ordinance that if you have the trash there, you need to have the recycling there too. And that recycling has to have the label on it showing what to recycle. We can help you with that and provide that for free.
Thank you.
Of course. It looks like there might be another question in the Q&A. Did I get that one? It looks like,
sorry.
That's okay. Trash and recycling service areas need new signage, and that's at Lexington Riverside, if I'm not mistaken. So let me write that down because certainly I can follow up with you, Mary. And we can come back out or send you whatever you need. I didn't mention this, but one of our goals is to stay in touch with buildings that we've served and support that ongoing effort, because we know with turnover and time, even the best program needs support and assistance over time to kind of keep things going. And also to keep current with the latest information. So thanks for your phone number, Mary, and I can give you a call and we'll follow up on what you need. What else? These are all good questions. Did I get them all?
I think you did.
Jenny, is there anything I didn't touch on that you think should be added?
Nope, we really want to focus, like Gina said, if we can all just kind of forget about all the minutia, the little bits of recycling. If we can really focus our efforts in education on those 5 categories, we will much improve our recycling. Those are the biggest things that are still in our trash that we could recycle. And those are the easiest things to talk about too. So really, if people are getting confused, just really go back to those 5 categories. Keep it simple.
Yeah. So Mickey, when you're talking about where you guys do your coffee, if it's not on this picture, don't worry about it. It's trash. Bottles, cans, paper, cartons, plastics 1, 2, and 5. That's it. Yeah.
So how will you follow up with someone here at Applewood?
Well, they can email or call me, or I can follow up with you on Monday.
Okay.
Trying to get back to my information so you can see it. Email me or
Okay.
call me, or I'll call you, whatever you prefer. And I would like to do that anyway because we have been in contact with Applewood, so I just want to make sure to connect the dots.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Gina,
Thank you.
please repeat those 5 categories that Jennifer is just talking about.
Sure. Okay, so do you want me to go back to the slide, Beverly, or just say what they are?
Why don't you go back, Gina? It might be helpful.
Both. Yeah.
Sorry, I should have done this a different way. Oops. Okay, so these are the categories: paper and cardboard, cartons, cans, glass, and plastics. Plastics 1, 2, and 5.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Well, I hope that provided some good information today, and maybe sparked some new ideas about how to make improvements in your buildings and how we can help if we can. Thank you to all of you for joining us, and thank you, Jenny, for your help today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
your Saturdays.
Thank you.
Both.